We in the right one?
Third time's a charm.
Awesome. Let's go. Welcome, and we appreciate you guys joining us on the Infinite Wealth Live. Again, we're here every third Thursday answering you guys' questions, everything about infinite banking, and anything else that you guys can throw at us. We're happy to answer those. But if you guys have any questions while you're listening today, feel free to throw those in the chat box, and we will pull those up and address them. Otherwise, we've got a great agenda for you guys.
What are we going to do today?
Yeah, we've got some questions, right? A lot of these questions that we're going to share with you guys are questions that we get during the week, during some of our meetings that we hear often. And so we've got, I think, 5 or 6 of those outlined for you guys here today. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give you a couple teasers. We've got some really good kind of upcoming how they do it with some clients, right? Some success stories with clients. So we'll give you a little teaser on that. And then we're going to be advertising our upcoming event with David Richter that is going to be specific for real estate investors.
That one's going to be good.
And Anthony, super excited about that. David's going to be talking about some taxes and spreadsheets. So Anthony's stoked. All right, guys, if you have questions, make sure you drop them in the chat box. But outside of that, Anthony, what do you think? Do you have anything to add before we dive into some of these questions?
No. I would just add, I got to add something. I wish I had some.
No, you always have that one.
I know. I was thinking as I was prepping for this is a prime opportunity for me to get some digs for you, but especially going live. So everybody gets to see your live face on it, but right. I didn't. But Dustin, awesome. What's up? Thanks for joining us. Again, any questions you got, throw them in here, whether it's about IBC, about passive income, or silky smooth hair.
Dustin, don't say it.
We are here. We are here to serve. So we did get a couple questions throughout the week, and one of them, which we get quite often.
This is a good one. And it was posed to you. Yeah, right? So this week, he came in my office after this meeting, and the question that they asked is, why didn't my other advisor tell me about this? Anthony, what was your response?
Well, I was politically correct with my response, and I try to hear. But what I think that there's many reasons. Okay, for one, typical financial planning wants to. I think they're just taking as gospel whatever Wall Street's telling them, right? They want to have control of your money.
Yeah.
With IBC is the opposite. We want you to have control of the money. And in order to sign somebody up for an IRA or a mutual fund, you just sign a form, right? There's no education. You just sign the form and send a check. With IBC, there's a learning curve here. You know, we want people to read a book. We have literally 2 to 3 meetings with us before we even start underwriting. So we've probably met 6 times before they need to write a check. So the sales cycle is longer. Also, if we want to be real, the way we design these policies, we're taking a huge pay cut, right? And you know what's interesting? Oftentimes we're at some of these conferences where you have to qualify for, and a lot of them is a lot easier for typical financial advisors to qualify for. And then when they see somebody's like, I mean, I don't do mutual funds, I don't do qualified plans, 401ks. Well, what do? Whole life. What else? Whole life. Like that's all I do. And they don't understand it. And in part what they're seeing is, wait a minute, I have to extend my business cycle. I need to educate my clients, and the service on this is so much more intense, of helping with loans, and helping manage how we're going to use a policy. They can just simply really do nothing. And then when they look at the way we design these policies, if they're going to do a whole life policy for the same premium versus us, they're literally making over 2 times as much. And they're just thinking, all right, I do 2 times the work and get paid half. Doesn't make sense. Right. So that's what I think. That's what I think. What do you have anything to add, Cam?
Well, I was going to, you gave a very politically correct answer there, but if I can, I'm going to narrow it down a little bit because I think this question was posed in opposition to another quote unquote IBC advisor, right? So Maybe touch on that a little bit. What do you think? Yeah.
Well, part of what interesting, and I think it's partly what we had this question for.
Yeah.
And you know what, I'm gonna phrase a little different. Why? Let me see. We have a few different designs.
Yeah.
Okay, and the typical IBC design is where there's ongoing premiums, right? But we have a special design that's called a one and done, where you make one deposit and you're done, right? So there's pros and cons to both, and ideally, if you know, people may have both designs. But I was talking with a client, and he was already a client, but he was talking to another guy who did IBC. And when he explained to him about what we were doing, he goes, "You can't do that. The policy is going to mech, which means it's going to become taxable," and warned him. He goes, "Hey, I would not do it." And so let me first preface this. Don't take our word for it. We want you to be educated. Go do your other research. Go find out the truth. Don't just take our word for it. So no problem with him asking around, as long as he comes back and allows me to
respond.
Yeah. And the bottom line is, what I told him, he doesn't understand. And I'm going to toot our own horn here. With this one and done design, very few IBC guys have been. I don't know anybody who was using it before us, and we have shared it with a few of the guys in our IBC inner circle. But this guy is not part of it, so he doesn't know what it is. But I think what that just shows is, when you're going to work with somebody, you need to work with somebody who's all in on IBC. I mean, IBC is all we do. We don't do any of these other stuff, which allows us to spend our time finding ways to best utilize infinite banking, whether it's the design or how we use it.
Well said, Anthony. Well said. Awesome. All right. What else we got?
Let's see. Okay. Let me post this. Yeah. Oh, that's the same one. Sorry.
Next one. Let's move on.
Okay. Can we borrow against the death benefit? What do you say to that?
I think I get asked this question probably 30 times a week, right? Especially when people are new and they're looking at it. And that's probably one of the biggest misunderstandings that's out there when people are first looking at IBC. And I'll tell you this, is that if we could borrow against the death benefit, our job would be really, really easy, right? But unfortunately, we cannot borrow against the death benefit, right? There's two parts to a whole life policy. There's the cash value, right? Which is the cash we're accumulating and building. And then we've got the death benefit. The death benefit is always going to be a multiple of your cash value. And people see that big number and they would like to be able to leverage against that. But what we're going to be using and borrowing against is the cash value, what we've accumulated and what we put in there. So unfortunately, we cannot borrow against the death benefit. And I know that question has circulated many, many times around the internet and amongst clients. So let's put that one to rest. What do you think?
Yeah, agreed. Let's see. Ooh, I like this one.
That is good.
I was asked this one yesterday, and
we borrow against the death benefit. Oh, is there a limit on how many policies that I can have?
No.
Yeah.
But there's no limit on the number of policies.
I was hoping and waiting to jump in there and correct you.
I know.
But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's never going to happen. The only limit is going to be the amount of death benefit on a single person. And if we kind of look at it, I mean, this is insurance, and it's like, you can't insure your Honda for $1 million, right? Because it's not worth $1 million. You can only insure it for what it's worth. And how do you put a value on a human life? I mean, I could argue it's impossible, but we need to have some sort of calculation to do so. And what insurance companies will use is either a multiple of the death benefit or a ratio or percentage of their net worth. So there may be a limit on the death benefit.
Sorry, I am going to correct you. You said
sorry.
multiple of their death benefit, but it's a multiple of their income. Their income, yeah.
I knew when I said that's not going to happen. I'm like, it's going to happen.
Happened 5 seconds
I didn't
later.
think it was going to happen.
Didn't take
It's going to
long.
happen that fast, right? So it's a multiple of your income. So if you're young, you know that number's 30. So if you're making 100,000, that's $3 million. But the older you get, that ratio will get smaller. So the death benefit is a limit. But if you're fortunate enough where you are maxed out on the death benefit, that's when we look at other people. Or so the same thing if you're uninsured.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're doing this for cash value, not specifically for the death benefit. So we just need to find somebody that you have an insurable interest to get a policy on.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have to agree. Okay. But so I've got policies on my kids, my wife, Cameron, Becky. I mean, I bought policies on other people. So there really is no limit to the number of policies that you can have.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, most of our ideally, you're going to end up working with us with a minimum of 2 policies each. And that means a whole life policy and a convertible term.
Mm-hmm. So I'll answer it similar, but just in a different way. Is there a limit on how many policies you can have? No, right? The deciding factor is going to be that a multiple of your income. So if we're using $1 million that someone is insurable for, the insurance company doesn't care if you have $1 million of coverage on one policy or if you have 10 policies at 100,000 each. It's irrelevant, the number. So,
okay,
cool. Awesome. All right. What do we got here? We got, what are the MEC limits?
You take this one. I'm going to get ready for.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Thanks for the MEC limit question. The MEC limit question is the MEC limit, to give you guys a little bit of background, the MEC limit is a modified endowment contract. That's what the acronym stands for. And what happened is in the early 80s, I think it was 1983, the IRS came in and they saw what people were doing with policies. And what people were doing with policies is they're purchasing very little insurance and then they're just overfunding, max funding these things to some crazy ratios. And so the IRS came in and they said, hey, listen, we see what you're doing. You're not treating this product like an insurance product. You're treating it more like an investment product. And so what they did is that MEC limit is really the ceiling on how much cash somebody can put into a singular policy in any given year. And so that's the ceiling that we work off of. And if we overfund the policy, right, is we lose the tax benefits that come along with insurance. And so really on the design, what we're trying to do is we're trying to stay within a corridor, right? Is we got to pay our cost of insurance, but we don't want to overfund it over and above beyond the MEC limits. If we can do that, we've got all the tax advantages and everything that are liable or available to us. So that's what we want to stay in there. The MEC limits, you can play around with those a little bit, right? So when we look at a policy, there's some things that we can do on the design to increase the death benefit, which increases your MEC limitations, which allows you to kind of put some extra cash in there. But typically what you're going to find is that your MEC limit will be 2.5 times kind of your base premium is typically kind of what that's going to be. So if you're putting in $1,000 a year into the base premium, you can probably put $2,500 into your PUA rider and you'll be within or right at that MEC limit without any sort of kind of one-off design there. So I think that was the question, is what are the MEC limits?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. I would say, Steve posted tax code 7702.
mm-hmm.
This is what carves out or defines the life insurance where it is not going to be taxed as an investment. Okay, we're going to shift to kind of some upcoming things we have going on. But in the meantime, if you're here, feel free to post. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the chat. So Ken, we got a few cool things coming up. I'm excited for. You want to?
We do.
Yeah.
So in the past, what we've done is we've highlighted some success stories, and we've got some really cool ones that are happening and that are just on the cusp of kind of coming to fruition, and that we're going to be highlighting for you guys here in 2023. And so I was going to give you a couple of highlights on those. One of them is a client, a young lady that she, I'm trying to kind of not share too much, but she's had some adversity, right, in her life. And so over the last couple of years since we've been working together, infinite banking has really been there to open her eyes. And she is in the process of acquiring her first multifamily property. And if this thing cash flows like it should, conservatively, is that, man, it could completely change kind of her financial future and potentially her kids. And so this has come about through a whole bunch of kind of life that's been thrown at her over the last couple of years. And so I look forward to kind of this thing happening here in the first quarter of this year, and that we can come in and share it with you guys. And yeah,
one thing I would add on that case, and let's just say she was not in the best of health.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So that's an example where IBC still worked.
Yeah.
Even though her health rating was below standard, because it's not that really affected the death benefit, but sometimes it can affect the cash value. And in her case, it did, but it still made sense, and it still allowed her to achieve her goals.
The other thing I'll share on that one is it's been awesome kind of working with this client and working on this case, is because prior to kind of us working together, is she really didn't have any handle on their finances. So there was a separation where she said, hey, listen, I've got to kind of handle this myself. And so really being able to kind of see her firsthand, kind of step up, take control of her finances, and now see where she's going, it's awesome. And I really look forward to kind of sharing that whole story with you guys.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one that we got coming up is these guys are absolutely killing it. We've been working with these guys for probably a year and a half now. And they had all the traditional planning kind of in place. And really the husband was a school teacher, and the wife was working design at a contracting company. So if you guys are listening, you know who you are. But these guys, right, have transitioned. They've added kind of this wholesaling and real estate investment kind of business venture to what they were doing. And man, in the last year and a half is they've made a ton of money. They're killing it. But what's really cool is that the wife has been able to retire. I'm going to put that in quotes because she's probably working harder now than she was before, but she's working on their business, and they're loving every minute of it. They're busy as can be. And he's looking at retiring here soon and just taking this thing full time. And man, it has been cool to watch. And I look forward to sharing that one with you guys as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. One thing I would say, just as we kind of move on, is that really what it started with both of these clients is really changing the way that they think, right? Is first off, right, Anthony always says we take the blinders off. And that was one of the things that we did is we got these people in a position of cash, right? We unlocked kind of their finances. We put it into IBC policies that are designed for cash. And once you have access to capital, just like Nelson says, is you start to see things a little bit differently. And so they started to see some opportunities, right? And see opportunities that they could act on. And in the first case I was telling you, she went out there and actively kind of found opportunities. So man, kudos to those people, right? Just being able to take the blinders off, see these opportunities, and then take action. And so that's probably the biggest takeaway I've had with both of those.
You know, a big takeaway I got from that is like that first one, when she's recently divorced, right? I mean, so divorced, I think 1 or 2 kids, severe health issues. And she was able not only to incorporate infinite banking, but she was able to take action and to achieve her goals.
Yeah.
So it's not the money or your age or health isn't going to stop you. It's going to be all up here. And if you kind of take those blinders off, you get control of your money. and you put that to action, you can achieve your goals.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better.
All right.
Awesome. All right. Let's transition. Let's give these guys a little intro to kind of what we've got going on Friday. I think it's February 17th.
Yeah.
Right. Friday, February 17th. We just interviewed David Richter, but we are bringing him back. Anthony, what you want to give these guys a little intro on what we're going to be talking about then?
Yeah. Well, Profit First, that book came out, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. I'm not sure.
Has it been that long?
Yeah. But what the philosophy is that as soon as a dollar comes in, we need to assign it a job or a name. And so, and what that will allow you to do is when that dollar comes in, first, you pay yourself first, which is and you pay that profit first. So you have an account specifically for profit. You have another account for some major expenses, for operating and for taxes. But what that allows you to do is when that dollar comes in, you already have them in that account. So you can very quickly determine how your business is doing. If some of those accounts are too low, maybe we're spending too much, or maybe we don't have enough revenue. But the earlier you can see these warning signs, the earlier you can take action. And what they just came out with a book specifically for real estate investors. So, and there's all types, right? There's wholesaling, there's long-term, there's short-term, there's land flipping. He addresses all of those in there specifically. So we interviewed him for our podcast, and that's going to drop on Tuesday. But we had such a good time that we asked him to do a private webinar for our clients. So you have the opportunity. So now I'd recommend you listen to the podcast always, but now you have the opportunity where he's gonna be able to share some visuals to get a better understanding of how and why this works. But I think the most important thing, you're going to have access to the author. So you got some questions, you can go ahead and post it and get that answered right away. So we just put the link in our in the comments here. We will start. This is the first time we've announced it.
Yeah, it's been in our emails that have been going out, but first announcement.
Okay, well, now you start getting some more active emails specifically to do this. I think this is a great opportunity. If you're anywhere in real estate, even if you're just starting out, this is a great time to learn because maybe you can incorporate this in the future.
Yeah. Great piece, right? Working with real estate investors, one of the common themes or problems that they have is that their income can be so volatile month over month. And so some of the strategies and stuff that he implements, right? Dustin. Some of the strategies that he implements help you kind of to smooth out or even out some of that income and helps you sustain from month to month. So great strategies, and it is certainly applicable to our audience. So we look forward to having him back. Okay, so Dustin's asking, where can we find the podcast? Anthony's going to pull that up right now. But our podcast, Infinite Wealth Consultants or Infinite Wealth Podcast.
What we have here is kind of like a link tree, but I actually like it much better. But if you go to this link, it's going to give you a link to one of our favorite videos it's called IBC Explained in 12 Minutes. There's also links to our website, to the podcast, to our podcast, and our upcoming webinars. So we haven't posted the one or the next Q&A for next month, but the link for the webinar is going to be in there as well. So I would save this link. This is what we're going to use to update any upcoming events.
Great. Anthony, that is everything that we have got on our agenda. Let's check, make sure we didn't miss any questions that are live. And if not, man, let's wrap this thing up.
All right. We do this the third Thursday at noon Pacific every month. So love to have you join live, but if you can't, email the questions to info@infinitewealthcourse.com or DM us in any of the social media platforms. We can talk about IBC, passive income, and silky smooth hair.
Well done. Take care, guys. Have a great day.
Go make it a fantastic day.